So I'm going to talk about doing image recognition with Spotfire. As Michael mentioned at the start, this is going to be using Python with AWS. So just a little introduction into image recognition. Image recognition is the ability to scan, photographs, images, even videos to try and detect labels, objects, etc. Automatically. Now, it's got a lot of potential use cases to do this. You could be the medical industry to scan, medical imagery, looking for potential illnesses early. Security intelligence, looking for identification of people. Even in manufacturing, looking at products produced, is it of high quality? You can detect that through images. And finally, in the environment, you can even use satellite imagery to detect pollutants, use of agriculture, etc. So it's got huge potential and has been used in a lot of industries. So what I wanted to do was actually experiment with, could we utilize image recognition with Spotfire to provide a very visual, interactive way of running image recognition. So what I wanted to do at the same time, I had been at an AWS and Amazon conference where they were talking about the Rekognize service they have, which is image recognition and video image recognition. And they gave some really interesting examples, like a charity in America using it to identify missing people and try and locate them and things like that. So I thought, why don't we try and connect Spotfire to AWS to actually perform some image recognition? But it doesn't, you can see here that most of the big players have actually got image recognition or forms of it available as well. And I'll mention at the end and talk a little bit about this, but the reason I'm using Amazon is to test a pre-built model, but of course you could build your own model in SageMaker or Team Studio, as you've just seen with Dan, to do this. So I'm actually going to jump out to Spotfire just now and hopefully give you a live demonstration of image recognition. So I have a directory here of some photographs that I took. And what I'm going to do is paste that directory into Spotfire, and I'm just going to hit scan. And what Spotfire has done is using R and Python, it's actually scanned that directory, read all the images, extracted metadata, so you can see here the size, when it was taken, it's displaying the image. It also displays it on a map, so we can extract location, geolocation data about each image. So here you can see the various places this was taken, tracking my movement in the last month or so. Now what we want to do is actually pass these images straight into Amazon to actually identify labels. So I'm going to click on this image, and it's live sending this up to AWS right now. So it'll just take a second or two. You saw that was pretty fast. And what it's done is it's returned the analysis from Amazon's Rekognize service, and here's the output that was provided to Spotfire. So this has all been done via a Python data function using Amazon's Boto 3 library. And I'll show that in a little bit more detail later. But here you can see the results. It's identified different labels. It gives you the confidence that it thinks that identification has. Is it high or low confidence? It gives you some parent sort of descriptions of what that type of thing is. And then it tells you a number, how many of these did it find, and whether there's bounding boxes present. So for instance, it says there's 9 people in this picture. So what we've done in Spotfire is we've made this interactive. So if I click on that, you can now see that each person it's identified, there is now a bounding box drawn on that image so that you can see where it's put up the people. And here you can see a bit more detail of the 9 people, what confidence they are. So for example, if I want to see person 2, where they're very confident, or there's a person here that they're low confidence, you can assess how good those confidence levels are. You can see that sometimes it gets it a bit wrong, so that it's identified a pool table that is here, but it also thinks it could be a train or possibly a jacuzzi. So it just shows that, the generic model, you have to be careful with, and train it to do the things you want to do before production use. But you can see how interactive and easy this is. I can click between any image. It spawns each job to Amazon and instantly returns back. It plots it on the map. Here I've got more people identified, a train. So it's very visual, very interactive, and gives you real scope to actually play around with a model to produce this. And this was all done through a mixture of ARM Python, the Python data function, and a little bit of JavaScript here to make it control some of the activity. So I wanted to explore doing this in other ways, look at other use cases. So for instance, I wanted to scan a live feed. So for this, I was using a website, which I should have available to show, which was explore.org. And that has live feeds from Wilderness. So it's got a video feed that's running constantly, for instance, in Alaska, at the Katmai River, where brown bears feed. So what I wanted to do was capture imagery from a live feed and see if we could scan that also in Spotfire. So what we've got here is this is the date of the day of the month, and this is the hour along here. And this is the number of each thing identified. So you can see at this time, 7 AM, there was 18 birds, 5 bears. So what we can do is then just click on this, and it actually shows you all the imagery that I captured from this live feed. And it shows you the bears that I identified. So if you click on the bird, for instance, it's identified birds in all these pictures. You can see all the birds around here. So this was a nice example. Imagine if you had a streaming feed of images that you could sort of build this idea of when do things appear, where are they more prevalent. You can even get individual confidences here. You know, there's a confidence here that this photo contains a bear, which it does. And you can click through these. So again, very interactive and very quick. You can also see the problem with some of these models. Again, they're very generic, so you might want to train your own. It thinks there's an elephant in one of these pictures. It thinks there's a penguin, possibly that there. It thinks a penguin, even a person. So it's good practice, again, to sort of analyze what comes out and assess your model. So what I'll do now is I'll just skip back to the first demo, and I'll show you a little bit about how this works and how we implemented this in Spotfire. So there's a few key components that are in this. The first one is how to read the information into Spotfire. So what I've done here is I've used an ARM Python script. So in Spotfire, you can hook up a script that runs when you need it to. So I've got a script called read images. I won't go through in complete detail, but it's just to show the potential for this. Because Spotfire has ARM Python, which gives you access not only to Spotfire's own API, it gives you access to system APIs, so C# APIs. You can do lots of interesting things with files and systems and building tables. So what this function actually does is here, it's effectively taking the path that I put in here, and it's then looping over the files. So this section here loops over all the files and does a lot of things, such as taking out the source image, picking out latitude, the image size, etc., and then builds that all as a table to return back to Spotfire. And here I'm using a function in ARM Python again that strips out things like the date and latitude, so the information metadata. So that makes it really easy to bring out all this detail and show it in Spotfire. The second stage is obviously sending your image then to Amazon service. So for that, what we can do is use a data function. A data function in Spotfire can call out to R, it can call out to TER, which is Spotfire's own enterprise R, it can call out to other things like MATLAB. But one of the nice new additions not that long ago was the ability to call it to Python. So that opens up a massive potential for machine learning in Spotfire. So here I've got an image recognition script, and I'll just show you how simple that is. So this is a script. I'm using a few standard libraries. Boto3 is the crucial one. That's Amazon's own library to call out to their services. And it opens up massive potential. You can do SageMaker, you can do S3, all these things. And the code is quite simple. All it's doing here is looping over each image that's been passed. It's then setting us to say we want to use the recognition service from Amazon. And then the last bit of code it needs is it's just detect labels as the function in Amazon, and we're just passing it this image. So really simple. All those lines of code sends each image we click on, and automatically does image recognition. The rest of the script is actually just formatting, handling the JSON object. So it's just flattening out the different pieces of information, you know, to pass back to Spotfire to give us the interactivity we want. So for instance, here we're dragging out coordinates so that we could draw those bounding boxes and then pass that back. And that's where you see this interactivity. So that bounding box was passed back as a table. So the one other thing I wanted to add to this demo, which I only implemented in the last day, so I hope it works, was the idea that not only could you scan local files, but you could also scan potentially something from an S3 bucket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reopen this tool. And this time I'm going to say I want to get it straight from S3. S3 is Amazon's simple storage system where you can store files and data, etc. So when I click that, this should go out to Amazon. So there you can see that spinning, hopefully. And that's actually retrieving live my S3 bucket called Spotfire Demo Images, and it's downloaded all the images now into Spotfire, and I can then do the same scanning. So the exact same experience as before, but this time I didn't need my files locally. I actually called out to an S3 bucket on Amazon storage. So I hope that gives you some flavor of what can be done with Amazon and Spotfire, and the way that you can use all the functionality to produce image recognition and show you the potential for that.